The year is 1942. A Times article reports on the Allied bombing of key industrial targets in fascist Italy. The bombs used for these missions were called blockbusters because of their ability to destroy an entire city block. Eventually, the term blockbuster entered the American lexicon as something explosive or shocking. Fast forward to the summer of 1975, when a movie spooked beachgoers out of the water and into the theaters. This movie, directed by a then unknown 26-year-old and marred with problems, would help cement the idea of summer blockbusters and change the course of modern Hollywood history. Today, the morons are talking Jaws.
Two unqualified morons playing tabletop. This is the Gateway Gamers podcast.
Hi, welcome to the Gateway Gamers podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm RP.
And this is a podcast where a veteran like me introduces the world of gaming to a noob.
Like me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gateway Gamers Presents
Jaws.
Blockbuster
Summer.
Blockbuster Summer. For listeners who aren't familiar with us, we are normally a board gaming podcast. But for the Blockbuster Summer event, we are talking the movies as well that we played the board games of. So today we're talking the 1975 absolute monster classic, Jaws.
Yes, we are.
How are you, RP?
Living the dream, man. I sometimes just wished I was out on a nice sea boat named the Orca, but not hunting a giant shark. But it would be nice to be out.
Exactly.
At sea at this moment. We're heading into the summer, which is better than to be on the beach. But I'm good. I'm here, ready to discuss Jaws. Watched for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, what's your origin with Jaws? What do you remember the first time you watched it?
Sort of. It is a little foggy because it's just one of those movies that's in my my lexicon of movies I've seen and grew up on. But I definitely saw it when I was younger. I want to say maybe around 10.
Okay.
My neighbor growing up was a huge horror fan, all different kinds. He's just a big movie fan as well. So he introduced me to Jaws when I was younger, and a lot of horror movies that classic horror movies that I've seen, I attribute to my neighbor Johnny. When I was growing up. So that was the first time I saw it was through him. And then just here and there along the way, I remember very vividly one day, I think it was eighth grade. I was in eighth grade and I was homesick and I watched Jaws twice. I don't know why, but I watched it like back to back the same day.
Yeah, perfect.
But very familiar with it, but I haven't seen it and it's got to be at least 10 years
Okay.
Since the last time I really sat down and fully watched Jaws. How about you?
Yeah, I don't remember the first time I watched Jaws. It just I was really trying to think back. It wasn't a movie that I got introduced to by anyone. It was just one of those movies that I always knew about. I probably seen it clips enough as a kid that I could probably piece the movie together. And I can't even think of the first time I watched it fully, but I've easily watched this movie probably 30 times, if not more. I love this movie. Anytime it's on TV, no matter what part it's on, I'm watching it. Every year around summertime, I'm watching it. It's I know it's considered a horror movie, but it to me, it's just a really cozy movie. I don't know how to explain. I don't consider this a horror that much.
It's not. It's more of a thriller, but it has the horror elements of the blood and the attacks, and it's a monster movie, not necessarily a horror movie, a monster movie. But I can understand the coziness. I mean, like I said, I watched it twice when I was sick, the same day. It's a comfort movie. It's a very well paced movie. It's well acted, well directed, and just full of great scenes. So I kind of understand that comfort.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies where it's not rose-colored glasses. Unlike there's some movies where I'll introduce my wife. I made her watch Labyrinth one day. And that movie is I love that movie. Watching as an adult, I'm oof, this is rough. And even she was like, "You like this?" I'm like, "Yes." But Jaws deserves the accolades that it receives. It is a perfect movie.
It really is. And that was the one thing while rewatching it that I was really surprised about was just how well it holds up. It is them, and we'll get into it, but them not showing Bruce until really minute,
an hour 25 in.
And it was a really a great, smart move by them. And that's what's helped this movie kind of stand that test of time, at least from the eye test. I mean, it's shot very nicely. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say, I can't
it is.
say
I will say it's beautiful.
It's there are
some shots in this movie where like just a boat on the water, where it is beautiful. It's beautifully shot. The cinematography is fantastic. Like,
I struggle to say beautifully, and I think it is very elegantly shot in terms of what kind of movie it is. But so I guess sure, it's shot beautifully, but I
it's
think it's
beautiful.
it's
I don't
shot
even call my
very.
wife beautiful, but this movie is beautiful.
You're a liar. Uh, it's clean and it's crisp and it's precise. The shots are all. Every single scene is shot as exactly as it's intended with a very deliberate way, and
Mhm.
that's absolutely what I picked up. Kind of when we do stuff like this for previously recorded, I take notes. I don't really have that many notes while I
That's fine. I
watch
have
it.
plenty.
Yeah, I just really just sat back and enjoyed the ride and had really not much to complain about at all. And just the biggest thing is the stupidity of some of the characters, but that's the point. So yeah, no, I have nothing. This is I think I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars, or maybe even a perfect 5. I haven't submitted my letterbox rating yet, but that's what it'll be.
Yeah, it's a 5 for 5 for me. Like I said, there's gonna be a couple movies we talk about this summer where I'll be all over the place. This one, I love this movie. Like I really do. And I have notes galore. So for all your failings, I'll pick you up.
I mean, the one thing just watching the movie too is that they really could not have made a better board game out of it, because the way the
Yeah,
board game
yeah.
acts, it really, like we said, is there's really not a better way to do a
Yeah,
Jaws
it
board
was
game.
super thematic. Like it kind of that hit and roll for the board game couldn't have been a better idea.
Yeah, it's a
Like
fantastic
there was
idea.
nothing else unless it made some kind of action game, but I don't know how you would even do that. So just like the board games, we'll get some stats on the movie. The movie was released in June of 1975. It's the first movie to gross $100 million until Star Wars a couple years later. The budget was it $7 million. It made $7 million open a weekend just domestic alone, and 471 million like overall worldwide at this point. Money is grossed. And like we kind of said, it launched the idea of a blockbuster summer. There were movies that were called blockbusters before, but this is the first movie that was an event. Like it was a movie that really got people to the theaters, where the term blockbuster is kind of like iffy on like what it means. But one of the theories is that people lining up around a block to get
Yeah.
tickets. And this is kind of one of those first movies where people were lining up.
Yeah, I actually was speaking to a friend of the show, my buddy Shanks. I was over his house the one night, and his neighbor came over, his neighbor Fran, kind of explaining them to him about what we're doing here with the Blockbuster Summer. And I said, yeah, there's a couple games like this. I think the first one we're doing is Jaws. And he went, oh, Jaws, that's my favorite movie. He's like, I saw that when I was a kid in the theater. We were, I was down the shore and we were seeing it, and he said it was just packed. He said it was every single day, morning till night, every showtime was sold out. And then he also said that his aunt took him. I think it's the opening scene, when it might have been the opening scene or a little bit later. He said his aunt had to run out because she threw up from the movie. So at the time, we're saying now it's a little bit of thriller, but maybe at the time it was, those horror elements on a big grand scale that everybody was seeing.
Yeah.
But
I
I
would have
found that very interesting.
loved. This is one of those movies. I think this, like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, like all those type of movies, like I would love to have seen at theaters, like especially at the time when it was so new.
Yeah,
Like it would be insane to kind of go back.
But just to comment on Blockbuster, this was one of those ones that he said was morning till night. Each showtime was packed.
Yeah, which is funny because generally summertime movies were garbage. That's kind of where they would dump some of the movies they didn't have faith in, because at that time people were out at the beach. They were out like in the real world. They weren't going to the movie theaters. So this movie was supposed to be released at Christmas time
Oh
in
wow!
74, but because of all the problems I had, it got pushed to the summer, and it just happened to work, which is
One
crazy to
of
think about like that. But it makes sense because in the 70s and 60s and all, like people were out. They're out doing stuff. So they would go to the beach in the summer and
how the
live their
times have
life.
changed.
Yeah.
Everybody stays inside.
And it was when it was cold, they would go to movies. So a lot of Christmas releases were the big movies.
That's
This kind of
interesting. I
set the
didn't know that.
standard for summer blockbusters.
No, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So I feel like everybody kind of knows the problems Jaws had.
Yeah,
Like,
and then they had
so
a
we're not
ton
going
of
to go like
problems.
beat by beat and kind of.
They had a ton of problems with the shark, right?
Yeah, it was the shark they had problems with, where the shark was supposed to be featured more. This was supposedly one of the first movies kind of filmed in the ocean instead of like a pool. And Steven Spielberg refused to do it in a pool because he liked the idea of the real ocean and how open it was and how lost you could feel, and how like there was you couldn't see any shoreline in the scenes that they were out in the water to make you feel more out in the open.
It's just crazy to me. I didn't know he was 26 either. I've always just thought when Spielberg made this movie, just not really thinking about it too much, but that he was an experienced filmmaker at this point. But he was not. He really wasn't.
No, I think he had one movie under his belt, and I forgot what it was. It's not one of his more well-known ones. He just kind of managed to get this, and then I mean it obviously set his streak of amazing movies, especially in the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like I said, we're not going to go beat by beat through the movie, because if you haven't seen Jaws by now, just turn this off and go watch it, because it's amazing. I'm just going to go through some of the things I love about this movie, and you can obviously jump in where you want. I know with your book full of notes.
I learned today, real quick before you start, was that this was like not one of John Williams' first movies, but it was early in his career too. You always think of him and Spielberg were about the same age when they did this, and I learned that today. And again, one of those other guys, John Williams, has always just been old as hell to me.
We're definitely gonna talk John Williams, because that score, oof,
man knows how to set a stage. I will say that.
Yeah, it is crazy to think, like, to us, Spielberg is such like old hat.
Yeah.
John Williams such old hat, but they had to begin somewhere. And like for this movie to be as fantastic as it is like what they started with.
Yeah, I mean, Williams, I was looking it up today too. Like, I think this might have been like one of his first major movies. This started their relationship, and kind of, I guess, put him on the map, because this is, like you said the other day, you were at the pool, and a 6-year-old kid was like doing the Jaws theme, and it's just randomly
we're at the pool, and this kid's just like dun. I'm like, get the fuck out of here! Like, there's no way this kid has seen this movie. But those like bars are just so associated with sharks now. That's in like the zeitgeist of like the world. Like you don't even have to see the movie. You just go no, and people are like, oh no.
Yeah, they do it on like Shark Week too. It's always like the theme. So, but take it away.
All right. So first thing I want to talk about is, like I said, cinematography. The movie is beautiful. BEA, beautiful. I don't care what you say. It is a beautifully shot film.
I'm not saying it's not beautifully shot. It is. It is. When you think about it, it is. All of those shoreline shots, all the shots where the boat is just sitting there, back and forth, and the way that they perfectly plan the scene. It is beautifully shot.
There we go. We did it.
Like all Spielberg movies, they are. He has a beautiful eye for capturing a shot.
Yeah, this one especially, though. I love just some of the shots they do and some of the ideas they kind of do, where a lot of the water's filmed from like the water line that just kind of give you a very uneasy, like in the water, like you're almost like lost in the water, like feel.
And I enjoy the one scene where it's at night and you see the boat kind of clearly, but the sun is setting and it's just very much this peaceful shot. And it's very much the calm before the storm. Like they are enjoying themselves before, we get all wrapped up into it. But yes.
I know exactly what shot you're talking about.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep. It's like chef's kiss. It's like a pinkish blue.
It's just a boat going toward the sun. Oh,
yep. It is beautiful.
Like a painting.
No, it is. That you could print that out. I would hang that in my house.
A lot of the shots I also love is when Brody kind of knows that there's a shark attack, and it's when everyone's out in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one shot in particular where someone comes over to talk to him, and you could see the water line in the background, but he's right there in the camera distracting him. Like they do so many great shots like that.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and then of course after that is when the little Kittner boy gets chomped up. Spoiler alert. If you've never seen Jaws, there's gonna be some spoilers. So set the spoiler alert buzzer, where the little Kittner boy gets eaten up, and it does that pan to his face, like like it zooms. Yep. Everything zooms out and it zooms in on him. It's just like that shit moment that he has of just like, like it was right. So just like shots like that, I think.
And then even like the shot, like we're kind of still in the beginning of the movie, the shot of the girl washed up is horrifying. The hand and the hair with the crabs.
Fun fact, that's a real hand. They had a fake hand that didn't look realistic, so they just
got somebody's head later.
They had someone like kind of put their hand up out of the the sand.
I like it. That's cool. It was surprising to see that this film was rated PG. I know
Mm,
you have a note on that, but to see that this movie's rated PG and you see boobies in the opening
mhm.
scene, I
Some
was
side boob.
some side boob. No, when she goes up, you see the full nipple. So
Mm,
I was very surprised to see that this get a PG rating along with the blood that's in the movie, and then even that the hand and the hair. I mean, considered in the 70s as being graphic, but I was shocked to see that this was a PG rating.
yep. So this is a 1970s PG movie. PG-13 wasn't invented yet. It was either you were PG or you were R. There was like no in between
Mhm.
until I'm pretty sure either Gremlins or Raiders made the PG-13 rating, which either way, it's attributed to Spielberg because he worked on both of those movies or had some kind of connection. So I think either Gremlins or Raiders of the Lost Ark was the first PG-13 movie.
I think it's Gremlins. 'Cause I'm pretty sure
Isn't it?
Raiders is PG.
Which makes sense. Gremlins is insane too. It's just like you watch movies now and you're just like, how is this? Like immediately it said PG, and I was like, oh really? Just I kind of forgot. I'm like, oh yeah, this is 1970s PG. The next thing I want to talk about is something we kind of touched on: sound and music. Obviously, John
Actually,
Williams.
both Gremlins and Raiders are PG. So I don't know.
What's so
Maybe that's what's caused
maybe
an
they
R
kind of
rating.
set the PG-13.
Because there's some trippy stuff in those movies.
Yeah, so maybe they helped. Maybe they were just like, all right, we need to set some
We need yeah,
PG-13.
we need a break. We need
Yeah,
a break in between here.
it's
But yeah, sorry to interrupt with
no,
John
no, no,
Williams.
no. That's part of the fun facts.
Yeah.
Next thing I want to talk about is music and sound. And like I said, John Williams' score is phenomenal. With both, everyone attributes the dread of like the shark score, which is obviously great, but there's also like some melancholy music that I love when like they finally like are chasing Jaws, and it's
Yep.
just this beautiful like like
Yep.
this
Yep.
uplifting like three men on a boat chasing the shark. It's just like da, 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 like all happy. Like I feel like no one talks about the other music in this movie besides that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like any of his movies.
Mhm.
The theme is always the biggest thing that's talked about
Yeah.
because he knows how to craft a theme. He knows how to craft a scene. And each scene, you're not distracted by the music, but you find that the music is uplifting and helping the scene move along even quicker. They're moving along quick in that boat, and that music makes them feel like they're going even faster. And you're sitting there with anticipation. I mean, just like all of his movies, I really do love them all.
Yeah, and I think also, like I said, the sound of this movie, it's really well done. They made some choices that I think were really like interesting for the times, especially like whenever it went underwater, like any underwater scenes, there was no music, there
Yeah.
was no sound. It was just very muffled as if you were underwater. Like I love those POV shots where it's just like you're above the water, then you go under, and it's just like there's no music, there's no sound, as if you are under that water, and it just adds to that tension of like,
What's going on, what's going to
yeah, you're out of your element.
yeah, you are the point of view of the shark, but the mindset of the human of
Mhm.
what's going to happen next. For
Yeah,
sure.
another great lack of any music or score. It's just a testament to the time because now they would add some ridiculous theme.
Well,
Is when
even
Quint's given his amazing monologue. There's like nothing. There's a very subtle lead up to it, and then it just lets it live in that space.
to
Where
power it off
now,
the
like,
scene, yeah.
yeah, I feel like nowadays, like they would have like this theme underneath it, where it's just like the lack of sound, just really listen to his words and how powerful this is, and that's it. Like it's
Yep.
just, I love that lack. It's as much as I love the score, I love the lack of sound in this movie sometimes.
And even like when a shark does attack and eats the humans, like you don't really hear like I feel like today you would hear like a crunch or something, and you don't. It's really from what I remember anyway, the opening scene, you just see the shark dragging the girl back and
Mhm.
forth. And when the kid gets eaten, you just see kind of the blood.
Yeah, just shoot up.
There's really not much sound to that either. Like you hear the
Besides the
screams in the
people, yeah.
background, but it's really kind of silent. And now I feel like it would be like a big to do.
It depends on what version you listen to as well. On the Blu-ray, they updated a lot of the sounds to make them like louder. Like there's like when the shark's like hitting the boat, it's like a different noise than the original. And even at the end when he shoots the shark, there's an explosion, but now it like really like explodes, and there's like like this weird
Yeah.
noise with it as well.
Yeah, the pew. It sounds
Yeah.
like kind of like a BB gun hitting like a
Yeah,
metal
it's kind of
can.
cartoony, but like the explosion, there's also this like weird noise to it. So if you can listen to the original audio, I recommend it. Only if you're a nerd, if you like really love this movie. Going from there, I love the subtlety of this movie with like the characters, and there's things you don't notice the first time or the second time or third time, but
Well,
after watch it like 10 times, you kind of see these little things.
the one thing I noticed that I never noticed before is when the mother puts the bounty out for the shark. And the one thing that I noticed was one of the guys that goes out to attack the shark is just lighting firecrackers and just throwing them into the ocean. And that just really made me laugh. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
There's so much like stupid stuff in the background.
There was even like a shooting star over Brody's head
Yeah,
at one
which
point.
is real.
Yeah, because I was like, why would they? What's the point of adding that? That has to be real.
Yeah, it was like just a real shooting star. It just happened to be in that scene. If it's like so again, so well shot. Like
Yeah,
it looked like it's placed there. Like
It's beautifully shot.
it's beautiful.
Even kind of just setting up every scene, like when Hooper goes underwater, when they go out at the boat at night, and they're looking for the guy, and they just see the attack ship. You're sitting there kind of waiting for something to happen, and when the dead head popped out, I actually jumped.
Yeah.
It actually made me jump, and I was genuinely startled.
That's such a good jump scare because you are at that point you're conditioned to wait for the song, like
Mhm.
for the shark. So when that dead head just pops out, there's nothing. Like so you're just like, oh, you weren't
Like,
expecting it.
yeah,
You
it
expect the
scared
shark's like head to poke out or something.
it scared the shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was genuinely startled.
Yeah, it was a good one.
And I enjoyed that. But what are some of the subtle things that you
So a big subtle thing is that Brody is an outsider in this town. He's new to the town. They kind of really set that up a few times where it's like in the beginning of the movie, the phone's ringing and he answers the wrong phone. Like his house has a chief line and then like a home line. He picks it up. He's like, like it's just they don't do much to be like, all right, Brody's new. And like they don't really have to be like nowadays they'd be like Brody, the new chief who just moved here in November.
Yeah.
They don't have to do all that. It's just like Brody is the new guy. You constantly feel it where the islanders, the natives just kind of like are just brush him off. And one of the big things is he places himself as an outsider. So with the town hall scene, all the mayor and everyone else is sitting there and Brody's like off to the side.
Yeah,
Like even he knows like he's an outsider until they invite him to the table. And then even on the boat when they're like sharing scars and like talking about all the things they've done, Brody's just hanging out by himself while Quint and Hooper are like bonding. So I just love that it sets him up that he's an outsider. Like he's just even amongst this group of like two hunters, he places himself on the outside. Like it's a very well and very subtle like way of showing that he's not comfortable where he's at.
And even like his acting decisions where he's trying to make a decision and the mayor's just like, nope. Like
they're constantly shooting him down, which is also just a great part of this movie, which I have my notes later, but it's like he's not a hero until the end. Like everything he does gets shot down and he doesn't push against it. He's just like, you can't do that. He's like, oh, okay, all right. Like he just goes along, which is so good. Like it just really builds to his character later.
And even like the shark attack, which I think is a perfect shot scene where they're writing cause of death in the very beginning on the typewriter, and he's like shark attack for the girl's autopsy, and then they're on the boat later, and the coroner's like, no, I believe it could be a boat propeller that did that to her. When the mayor's like convincing him that this isn't what happened, and he's like, are you're gonna stick to that? And he's just like, yeah, I think I will. And Brody's just like, okay. Like, star or hero of the movie would be like, no, this is what's going on. I'm protecting these people. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, if that was filmed today, he'd be like, no, I'm gonna step up and I'm gonna shut this beach down and
be like Captain America. Like, no, Civil War.
You push back, but now he's just like, nah, I'm good. Like because he again, like it just shows that he's an outsider. Like these people grew up on his island. He moved there from New York. I think it's supposed to be within like 8 months.
Yeah, because it's his first summer.
Yeah. So it just kind of shows like he's so out of his element. Another thing that I love that I've only noticed like recently, and like it makes me laugh every time, is the difference between Hooper and Quint. And it's again just very subtle where they show Hooper eat a couple times, and like when he drinks wine with Brody's family, he just very like, I don't want to say like gluttonous, but he just eats like kind of fast and whatnot. And it just goes to show like he's a rich kid, like almost like it's just a very nod to him being like rich. Quint is so frugal that he literally bites half a cracker and puts it in his pocket. Like there's one scene where he's like, he has like the big fishing rod, and they kind of show him he just takes like a bite of a cracker and then puts it in like his top pocket.
I did know.
And it just kind of shows like just how like
different
ends of means and frugal that he is, that he's literally biting half a cracker, putting it in his pocket. Like it's just, I love those little character things that just kind of really develop a character.
They play off each other so well too. Where again, Brody's the outsider, where they're going back and forth with each other. Brody's kind of just standing there, not knowing what to do, and saves the day.
Yeah, supposedly, who is it? Dreyfuss, who played Hooper, and I'm blanking on who played Quint, hated each other.
Oh, really?
So a lot of their tension
was real.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder why. I guess personalities just didn't match.
Yeah, so I think the guy who played Quint, Robert Shaw was like a Shakespearean actor at the time. And then Richard Dreyfuss was this young upstart kind of upcoming actor. So they just probably just didn't mesh. Like it's just two different worlds of acting and training. So
big age gap too, I think. That also happens.
But it worked. It worked out perfectly because they have such good tension in the film.
And Chief
translates.
And Chief Brody brings it all together. And I thought that he was fantastic. Really, I feel like not talked about much, in one of the better performances in these classic movies. Sometimes you get, shaky acting, but he was phenomenal. I from start to finish, I was very into his character, very into the story they're telling via him. Yeah, but loved him. Loved Chief Brody.
Another thing that I love about this movie that no one really talks about is the humor. Like, I think this movie is a lot funnier than it kind of gets credit for. One of my favorite things after kind of watching it again for the 80th time is when the mayor tells the family to get into the water. He's like, "Hey, aren't you in the water?" Because they know there's a possibility of a shark. And like the look they give each other, and then when they're like, they have their family and they're like walking into water and they look so terrified. Like, it makes me laugh every time. And it's also like, funny. What the fuck are you doing? Like, I don't care who this guy is. You're not telling me to get into the water.
Yeah, when there's a shark around, no way. That's like, my problem with the movie. Not my problem with the movie. It's intentional from the movie to make these people be like, "Oh, I don't care. We're going in the water." And it's like, you're an idiot. You are so dumb. If somebody tells me there's a shark in that water, whether there actually is or not, probably not going to go in. Probably going to stay pretty close, and the people go deep. And it's just like so dumb. And this goddamn mayor, I don't. It's just.
Well, funny enough, they a lot of people during COVID, not to get political, but they kind of credited this movie towards how the government handles COVID. Where it's just like telling the people like, "Nah, it's not a big deal. Like, no big deal." And then how they kind of. They don't know how to handle it, because even in the beginning of the movie, Brody's just like, "Where's your beach close signs?" And he's like, "I don't think we have any." Like, where it's just like they never had this problem before. So it's just that always made me laugh. Like, especially now where people kind of compare the COVID and how government handled it to the mayor being like, we gotta stay open. I'm gonna need a bigger boat.
Great line.
A hilarious scene. They extended that scene because they test audience it, and Spielberg was annoyed because people were screaming and would miss his line.
Oh, like screaming, laughing?
Like, no, because at that point is when the shark pops out of the water, and that's like the first time you see the shark, really.
Yeah.
And so people supposedly were freaking out in the theaters, and he kind of backed up, and the edit was he was right in the room with Quint and says, like, "You're gonna need a bigger boat." And he was getting pissed because people are still screaming from the shark that they would miss the line. So he kind of like backs up slower for like a bit. They added a couple more seconds to kind of give that laugh. He wanted that punch of like fear and then
a
there's
little
punch
bit of
of like
humor.
a little joke. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. I didn't know that. Quint proceeds to destroy the radio after that,
Yeah.
which I was like, he's a madman. But
Oh, I'll get into that. There's a reason for that. We'll talk about it. And then my absolute favorite, funniest part of this movie, I don't think it was supposed to be. This shit makes me laugh. Every time I watch it, I think I rewind it to watch it again. When they have the shark strung up, like the boaters caught a shark and they strung it up, and like they're all like proud of themselves. And then Hooper is just like, so like that's not the right shark, whatever. He says like, what kind of shark is it? And he goes, a tiger shark. And the guy goes, oh what? I think it's so, if Audra could put that in right here.
What kind of shark?
It's a tiger shark.
A what?
A what?
A what?
And he's just so dumb looking and so slack jawed, which is amazing. Which
Yeah.
leads into one of my favorite fun facts about Jaws. And I texted you this and said, this is the movie full of ugliest people I've ever seen in my life.
oh my God.
So they're all locals from Martha's Vineyard.
Oh, really?
Yep. Like only the main Brody, Hooper, Quint, and his wife, I think, were actors. Everyone else were like locals from Martha's Vineyard.
They look like normal people, you know,
Yep.
like again, today, you know, the family that went into the ocean would have had, you know, the dad would have had like a six pack and was
Mhm.
super muscular, and everybody just looked normal.
Yeah.
And I think that adds to the believability of it all.
And it also helps to, I think it adds to, again, the subtlety of Brody's outsiderness, where like Brody, even as a human, Roy Schneider, the actor, like was an actor he was an outsider. Like all these people lived in Martha's Vineyard, so it kind of added to him being like an outsider in this town. And I think that kind of like helped. Like he did look out of place. Like these people are ugly as hell. And Roy Schneider isn't like a dreamboat, but he looks
He's a
like a more
handsome
put together
guy.
human being
Yeah.
than some of these creatures in this movie.
Yeah.
I also love with the locals in the beginning of the movie how they're constantly just pestering him with nonsense.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
as the
yeah.
chief of police, they're like, these boys up the street, or like the one guy's just
Yeah,
like, someone
come and
parked
get a
a truck
bike.
in front of my house. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, this guy,
can-
leave him alone.
Come and get a bike, chief. Anytime you
Yeah.
want, but you know.
And then even after the shark attack, and the mayor is like, he's like, look at that vandalism on the board because
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
wrote like help shark, and that's what he's worried about. He's not worried about people dying. He's like, these vandals, you got to get them.
The one thing that that did make me laugh, and it wasn't supposed to, was when the mother of the kid who was eaten comes up in her funeral gear and
Yeah, her funeral garb.
her funeral garb, and it just smacks him, and she's like, I just wanted you to know that wasn't the shark or whatever. And he's
Yeah, you knew, and you let them swim anyway. Poor Miss Kittner. It's just like her and her husband look so goddamn old,
and their kid was
and like
young.
that was their only kid, and they had no chance to have another one. So her to come up and like just smack them. Those are real smacks too.
Oh yeah.
Supposedly she couldn't. Again, not an actress, so she really hit him. I think like 9 times. Like they did 9 takes, and she smacked the shit out of him like all 9 times.
My God.
Yeah. I just found out that girl got killed here last week, and you knew it. You knew all those things. My boy is dead now. There's nothing you could do about it. My boy is dead. I wanted you to know that. And then Mayor Vaughn just like, she's wrong.
Yeah.
Again, like, no.
Yeah, it's just he constantly denying it.
The mayor. So leading into that, the perfect segue. This is perfect segues. Mayor Vaughn, one of my favorite things about this movie. For multiple reasons. First thing, this guy a wardrobe
Oh,
on
impeccable.
point.
Impeccable. I love.
Will you say
love-
beautiful?
I said impeccable.
Will you say beautiful?
Oh yes, I will say beautiful because of the
that-
anchors.
Anchor suit.
Yep.
Oh, I want it. I wish if I could have had that for my wedding,
You would wear it every day.
that's what I'd be wearing.
His
Um,
outfits are fantastic.
That suit is fantastic. I love his character because again, I love looking at this movie as if it was made today. Like how different it would be. Where I think he's like by today's standards, he would just be this one note evil guy where he's just like, we gotta open up, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, we can't do that, we can't do this. And he's And he's not like a one-dimensional character where he's doing it for a good reason in the movie, where he's trying to keep the island alive, because if he shuts down,
That goes the money.
yeah, they lose a lot of money. Like, this whole township's lifeblood is based on the summer and the income, where even like Quint, when he's introduced, kind of says like, do you have enough food stamps for the winter if we don't get the shark? Like, he knows like we're not gonna have a good time if you let this chief like shut down the island, where you kind of hate him for a while. You're just like, oh, like what a jerk. Like, why is he doing this? Why is he against the main character? But then after the Kittner boy dies and people are running on the beach, they just show him, which I think is just such a good scene, because like people are running by him and he's just standing there and he looks distraught, where it's just like even he's human, where he's just like, oh, like I fucked up.
Well, the scene in the hospital right
Yep.
after, where he's like,
Yep.
my kids were on that beach. I thought I was doing what was best. And you see that remorse, and also it's a little bit of I didn't believe it was a shark attack too. And
Yeah, it's just such a
know it
good
is.
dimensional like character, where it's just like, by today's standards, he would have just been like, nah, twirls mustache.
Yeah.
We gotta keep this beach open.
He's a
Funny.
very flawed character.
Yeah, funny enough, in the book he had, because I read the book, because again I love Jaws, he owed money to the mob,
Oh,
which
really?
is why he wanted to keep the beach open. Like, he had
Oh.
more of a reason
Makes
to
sense.
be as absurd as he kind
But
of was.
that's too much setup to do. for
Yeah,
this.
it would have been too much. Where the mob had like a lot more. It was him and the mob had like real estate. So
Okay.
basically, they own the island essentially, and he was like part of it. And they were just
Sure.
like, listen, like if we lose money, you're losing limbs.
Yeah.
So he had like a lot more reason in the book to be a little more like, we got to keep the island open.
Yeah.
I don't lose my fingers. Like, we got to keep the island open. Yeah, I just think it's such a good character. Just like, ugh, like that. Just I said, that shot of people right on the beach and him standing there, and he just has his hand to his mouth, where he's just like lost. He's like, oh, what did I do?
Well, you need these two balance out, where you have the kind of the visible villain right now
Mhm.
in the mayor, and then you have the invisible villain in the shark, and then
Mhm.
obviously that goes away. And then this is very much a 2-act film, where the first act is everything before the water, and then the second act is everything on the water. And
Mhm.
these are two
It
different.
also has like two different movies.
Yeah,
Like it's like the
two
board
very
game.
different
How the board
movies.
game had one part, two part. That's
Yeah.
how this kind of is, where it's the Amity Island and then the boat.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. I don't know how many movies like this back then were like that, but it really does feel like two different films, and I think it also helps the movie move along so quick. They're out there for an hour on the water, and it doesn't feel that way because it's a constantly like a chase scene.
Mhm.
You get multiple fights with the shark, and it aligns perfectly with the board game.
Yeah. You mentioned the hospital after the Kittner boy, which leads into another thing that I love, which is the editing of this movie. It just has weird edits that you kind of don't see nowadays, and it just works. And it's kind of also the like I said, the music and the noise of the movie, like the sound of the movie. So the one edit that I and these are like little things that are just subtle things I love. In the beginning of the movie, after they find the body of the girl and he's looking for the beach closed signs, and he assigns his little assistant to make the signs, and he's running around with the sign parts, and the mayor's just like, hey, what do you got there? And they're talking. He's like, oh, mayor, there's been a death, like blah blah blah. Meanwhile, there's a parade
Yeah, I
going
know,
on
right?
around them, and you could barely hear them. Like, it's just such good, like, again, it leads to you living on this island where it's just like these two people are talking and there's a parade going on around these people, and it's so noisy and disorientating and distracting.
But it also leads itself to how serious they're taking it. They're not taking it
Mhm.
the mayor doesn't take it serious, so it's not like a big mayor. There's a
Yeah.
shark. It's very much you're just in the middle of this town, and it's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's a parade. There's other more important things that are overshadowing. Parade is more important than the shark.
Yeah.
The money that this parade brings in is money more important than the shark, and so on.
Yeah,
and so
then
forth.
another scene is after the Kittner boy dies, and they're walking up the hallway of the hospital, and somebody's talking to the chief, and there's just people everywhere.
Mhm.
And again, you could barely hear what these two people are saying because there's so much noise and confusion. It just sets up that scene so perfectly of what it would be, of just like
Chaos.
chaos. And I love that scene of just this chaotic, Like even like I said, the audience would just be like enthralled by like this boy who just a boy again, like just a kid gets eaten in this movie. Like not an adult, like you feel bad for an adult. This kid, it just erupts into blood. And it's just like it's so chaotic, and they're walking up the hallway and it's just Brody and somebody talking, and it's just so much noise and confusion, like it would be.
Yeah.
It's not a clean shot, it's not perfect audio, it's like
It's chaotic, and it
chaos.
puts you in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I love that. And I think that's what makes this movie so great.
There's another weird edit, which makes me, it's another one of those things that make me laugh, and I don't think it's supposed to. It's when they're on the boat later in the movie, and they show Quint, I think, at the controls of the boat, and then they cut to Brody and Hooper talking, and Brody's talking about what they should do, and it literally fades of him mid-sentence back to Quint. And it makes me think like even the movie's just like, shut the fuck up, Brody. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just such a weird like
That's odd.
edit that you wouldn't see normally. He's literally mid conversation. It's just like what cuts off back to Quint smoking a cigarette or something, and it's just like I love it because it's just like Brody, shut up. Like even the movie's just like, you're an idiot. Hero's journey. Brody is the perfect example of the idea of a hero's journey, a bumbling idiot that becomes the hero at the end, like truly steps up to be the hero. I think again, if this was made today, he would be truly a bumbling idiot. Like I think they would cast him and he would just be like a goofball, because he almost is a goofball in this movie. Like he's just very like, okay, all right, like he just kind of goes with the flow. He's falling all over the ship, and it just and at the end
he's still finding his way.
Yeah, but at the end, he's the one who steps up and does it. I love that he's terrified of water. Like, even so, again, where the subtlety, when the Kittner boy gets killed and he's trying to help people off the beach, he won't even touch the water. Like, he looks down to make sure that the water is not touching him. And I think that's such a good, like, again, subtle, like you don't really see it unless you're looking. Like he looks down like, oh, I don't even want to touch the water. Yeah. People are dying. He's like, don't put me near the water.
It just adds to the journey.
And the entire movie, he doesn't touch the water until like the very end when the boat's going down. That's the first time you see him touch water.
Yeah. When they're
I think that's such a cool character development of his character.
It's also just an interesting character aspect of a movie that is about a water creature.
Yeah, and there's no reason. They don't give a reason why he's scared of water.
Nope.
There's no backstory. At one point, the wife's talking, and she's just like, "Yeah, like I don't know. He's never liked water. Even when we take the ferry, he stays in the car." And she's just like, "I don't know. It must be like a condition." And he goes, "It's called drowning." Like it's just like he just does not like the water. Quint's introduction, another fantastic character moment when he scratches a chalkboard and he makes his little, y'all know me, you know how I'm living, like that. I love it. And he has a little chalkboard shark of a person getting eaten. And I love that dialogue is what happens to him. Like that's foreshadowing, like literally just like, oh, he bites you, he shakes you, and then you go down. It's literally beat for beat what happens to him. Like I love that scene. And then you don't see him again for 45 minutes.
Yeah, he disappears.
It's like, we did what we needed with him, and then let's move on. Kind of like I said with the book's a lot different, I think, which is interesting. Where if you read the book, everyone's hateable. Like Hooper bangs Brody's wife.
Oof.
Brody's wife is miserable. She's a horrible bitch of a wife compared to how she is in the movie.
I'm very glad they made that change.
And then I think the only person who's the same is Quint. I think he's the only one that's like the same.
I enjoyed his monologue of what happened to him.
The Indianapolis.
Yep.
Oh, beautiful. Again, perfect.
Gives you some introspect into this interesting character
of why he hates sharks so much. Like, and it's just like that scene is so good. That again, I know I keep saying it, but like subtlety of that scene where like they're all having fun, they're all laughing. At one point, Hooper like lifts up his shirt and he has a scar. There's a talk about, I think he got shot. I think that's what that is, because I think he gets shot in a book, and that's why he left the New York cop to be a small town cop.
You said Hooper. You meant
Oh, sorry.
Brody.
Brody, yeah. So Brody like
Okay.
lifts up his shirt and he has like a
Yeah,
scar and
they
he just
don't
puts his
really
shirt
say
down.
it. Yeah,
And he doesn't even talk about it. He's just like, nah, it's my business. Yeah, where I
Yeah.
think he got shot. He moved to a small town because he was a New York cop. And then when Hooper and Quint finally are like bonding and they're laughing. And he's just like, what's your tattoo? Say mother.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
Quint
yeah,
just
yeah.
like grabs him. It's just like all serious. It's like, yeah, don't laugh. Like
Yep.
that monologue's fantastic. Trying to think. I know in the book, Hooper dies,
Okay,
and I think Brody lets it happen because he
I
knows
mean,
he banged his wife.
that's fair.
Which, which is interesting.
Hooper should have died. The shark cage scene.
Yeah, Hooper just swims off and just hides and then comes back like, yeah, we did it.
Yeah, the way that scene played out, he 100% should have died in that
Mhm.
cage.
Yeah, I wonder if they were planning on it.
And there were like too many.
Yeah, and then the shark just dies in the book. Like it just gets too many harpoons and injuries and it just dies. It's not this dramatic explosion like in the movie.
Also glad they made that change.
Yes, and I love their decision of that because I love that Brody.
Satisfaction.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's amazing, but I love that he uses the ideology from both people to kill the shark. Like when he finally steps up because he's kind of like law and rationality and common sense and like he's not experienced on a boat, but he's like his own person and like Hooper's like science and intelligence and then Quint's just drive and like obsessiveness. But Brody uses the air tank that Hooper brings on that Quint mocked him for, and then the gun that Quint was using that Hooper ridiculed him for using. So like he kind of used both of these things from both men to kill the shark. And I think that's such a cool like little nod of like he needed both of their ideologies to kill the shark.
Yeah, it took all three of them.
The ending it's fantastic. Just the shark blows up and then it's this
just
beautiful.
It's just over. I
Yeah.
like that it's just over. There's no get back to town.
Mhm.
Say it took out the shark. Nope. The fact that the movie just ends is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
The adventure's over.
That's what I meant to talk about. You were talking about how he destroyed the radio. So my guess is he did that and he sabotaged the boat. I think it was a pride thing because like he gave this monologue of being the greatest shark hunter. And then I also think again, because of his frugalness, he needed the money. So if they went back to shore and got help, I don't think he would have gotten the money and he would have gotten like the prize of the shark. So I think that self-sabotage was because of that. Like he's not clearly sense. He's insane.
Yeah. I just took it as he wanted to kill the shark himself, but the money aspect makes sense too.
Like that's how I kind of took it. One fun fact I did find, and I know I texted you about it, the theory of the Lady of the Dunes.
Oh yeah.
So for people that don't know, Lady of the Dune is a nickname for an unidentified murder victim that was found in 1974 Massachusetts, and her body was found with no hands and her clothes like nicely folded underneath her. It was a blue bandana and jeans. And Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, like probably has watched Jaws more than me. And he noticed an extra who's wearing like a blue bandana and jeans who fits the description of the victim.
So great.
And is like gung-ho that this extra in Jaws is this person
that died.
Like I came across that and I'm just like, what a weirdo. Just like his dad.
Yep. Strange.
Because Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, if you don't know. But what a weirdo. He's just like, well, at home watching Jaws. He's like, oh my God, that looks like the Lady of the Dunes. Or it's like, what? Like it's and if you look it up, you could find like they point an arrow to this lady and she's on a screen for a split second. So it's just like he was just at home, just like, oh my God, that's her. And his father was just like, what? That's kind of it. You got anything I do have some follow-ups. I do want to talk about some other things after the fact, but anything else about the movie that kind of stood out to you or?
No, not really. I kind of said everything that I felt about the movie and how impressed I am with the movie still to this day, and that I thoroughly enjoy it and enjoyed getting to rewatch it.
Have I flipped you? Is this movie beautiful?
This movie is beautiful.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
I'm a big Spielberg
is all my goal was today.
I'm a big Spielberg guy. I love it a lot of his stuff.
So as I keep kind of saying, I look at this movie with the rationale of what if it was made today? If they were to do the worst and remake this movie, let's do like a dream cast. Who would you cast? And then who do you think like they would cast?
Well, I think they would cast, and who I would cast for Chief Brody is Tom Hardy.
Okay.
I feel like that fits.
You don't think
Quint?
Hardy would be a good Quint?
No, because Quint would be
No?
Anthony Hopkins.
I don't know. He's kind of old, but all right, I'll let you go. I don't hate it, but go on.
No, Hardy's too young to be Quint. And then Hooper would probably be Matthew Broderick.
He's old too. All right.
It's a weird.
So you think that's
casting.
what they would go?
Yeah, and then the mayor would be.
Oh, I don't even think of the mayor.
The mayor would be Tim Allen.
I like that.
Or if not Matthew Broderick as Hooper, Ewan McGregor. That's who I would want.
All right. I like that one.
Yeah.
My dream cast, if I was making this movie, I would have The Rock.
Of course, naturally.
It would be. I mean,
That's
this
probably
might even,
who would be.
I was just about to say
It would be Jungle Cruise.
My three jokey dream cast would be probably who Hollywood cast. So I would have The Rock as Brody,
Kevin Hart.
Hooper. It would be Hooper would be Ryan Reynolds,
Yeah.
and then Kevin Hart would be Quint.
I actually Hugh Jackman somewhere in there too might work.
Yeah, Hugh Jack, but that would be who Hollywood would cast. So it would be on Netflix.
Yep, it
And
would.
the shark would be CGI and would be visible every 30 seconds.
Mhm.
But I would like really put thought in it, and I was like, who would they cast? Like, who's like the it people that they would kind of cast? So I have Willem Dafoe as Quint,
Okay, yeah, that makes
and
sense.
I thought he would make a good one because of the movie The Lighthouse.
Yeah,
He plays like a disgruntled, like crazy old man. And plus his performance as Green Goblin, like he would play like this good, grizzled, insane, but also calm and collected,
absolutely.
like
That's
performer.
His Norman Osborn's that.
Yeah. Brody, Patrick Wilson.
Okay, yeah, I
Uh,
could see that.
Yeah, I think he would just be.
Well, then you just gotta cast Momoa as Hooper because you have Aquaman.
Oh, you're right. Willem Dafoe is an Aquaman too, and so. Well, this is a DC lineup
Yeah.
because I do have another DC star for Hooper. But like Patrick Wilson would just play a good aloof.
He looks the
Yeah,
part.
and he looks it. He looks just like the actor almost, but he would play like a good aloof like chief who also could step up.
Yeah.
And then I have Jeffrey Wright as Hooper.
Okay, yeah, I could see that as well.
I think I personally love Jeffrey Wright. I think he could play like the smarmy.
The mayor would be J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I didn't even think the mayor. Yeah,
I need to recast. Anthony Hopkins does not work for my Quint. But continue with yours.
I'm trying. Who would I do as the mayor? Again, going by taste standards, it would probably play Star Lord.
Oh, Chris Pratt.
Yeah, it'd be Chris Pratt. They have to just because that's who they would cast.
Yeah, why not? I'm all right with that.
Chris Pratt would play the voice of the shark, or no, Vin Diesel would be the shark.
Yes, Vin Diesel would be the shark. Michael Rooker is Quint. That would be my Quint.
Yeah, that would be actually really good. That's good casting. He plays a good disgruntled.
Hollywood,
redneck
give me a
racist
call if you
character.
ever decide to do that.
So there we go. I'll email Steven Spielberg because I messaged him on Instagram and we did find out it wasn't the official.
But it is
Steven
the official.
Spielberg. But that's kind of it. I mean, this is just a taste of, if you are a Gateway Gamers listener, this is the nonsense you can expect from our movie kind of reviews.
Yep.
I don't like beat by beat, play by play movie reviews. I just kind of like talk about movies and what I enjoy in the movies because I don't care what you enjoy from the movie because I like my experience. And again, if a lot of the movies we're talking about are classics, if you've never seen them,
Time to rewatch them.
and it's time to rewatch them. And if we're talking about them scene from scene, it's boring. It's just not what I enjoy in a podcast.
Yeah, it's just an open discussion. And we'll say things that we might say a couple curse words that we don't typically say.
Yeah, this is
regular
PG.
show.
This is a PG 1970s PG podcast. We should put that at the beginning.
Yes. It's marked explicit, so people can say it.
Yeah. There might be a few Fs and
Yeah.
MFers and SOBs and S my A and
Smile, you son of a bitch.
Ow.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed this as a discussion and a little bit of background as Brian provided with us today, things you didn't know about the movie. So look forward to
Mhm.
that and some guests coming forward. And remember to follow us on all socials.
Yeah, follow us. If this is your first episode, I apologize. We normally don't talk about movies. We're a board game podcast. It's just our little side project. But if you are listening to this and you do enjoy board games, listen to some of our other episodes and
if you
subscribe.
And if you enjoy movies and pop culture references, check us out all summer, and also over at Previously Recorded, where we do this all the time.
Please record it. Amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Absolutely.
podcast.
100% agree with that. Yeah, so remember to rate, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you at the movies.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening. Love you.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so never more shall we see you again.